In the shimmering exosystem of Vera 7, a planet bathed in bioluminescent oceans and towering crystal forests, humanity was seen as an oddity, a fragile species that had somehow clawed its way into the stars. To the native inhabitants, the Verans humans were little more than pests. They buzzed around their advanced cities with clumsy machines, their bodies ill-suited for space travel and their minds too slow to grasp the intricacies of Veran technology. The Verans themselves were breathtakingly beautiful by human standards, with skin that glowed softly like moonlight and eyes that shifted colors depending on their emotions. Their voices carried a melodic resonance, each word sounding like a symphony to human ears. But beneath their radiant exteriors lay arrogance and unshakable belief that they were the pinnacle of evolution, destined to guide or rule the lesser beings who stumbled into their domain. On this particular evening, under the pulsating glow of two suns setting over the horizon, a young human named Elias stood at the edge of one of Vera 7's crystalline lakes. He was part of a small diplomatic envoy sent from Earth, tasked with negotiating trade agreements or alliances, anything to ensure humanity wouldn't be shut out of the galactic community entirely. So far, it hadn't gone well. The Verans dismissed every proposal, laughing off humanity's attempts at diplomacy as if they were jokes told by children. Elias sighed, running a hand through his short, dark hair. His reflection stared back at him in the still waters below, distorted slightly by the faint ripples caused by the wind. Compared to the ethereal beauty of the Verans, he felt painfully ordinary, shorter, weaker, duller. Even his voice lacked the musical quality of theirs. When he spoke, it sounded flat and uninspired. As he gazed into the lake, lost in thought, something caught his eye, a figure standing not far away, watching him. It was a Veran woman, her form almost otherworldly in its perfection. Her silver-white hair cascaded down her back like liquid starlight, and her glowing skin seemed to pulse gently with an inner light. Her eyes, currently a deep shade of violet, locked onto his, and for a moment, Elias forgot how to breathe. She stepped closer, her movements fluid and graceful, as though she floated rather than walked. When she finally stopped just a few feet away, her lips curved into what might have been a smile or perhaps a smirk. Either way, it made Elias's heart race. "You are different," she said, her voice lilting and melodic, yet tinged with curiosity. "Most of your kind scurry about like frightened rodents. But you linger here, alone." Elias swallowed hard, trying to find his words. "I'm just thinking," he replied, his voice quieter than he intended. "Thinking?" she echoed, tilting her head slightly. "About what?" "About us," he admitted after a pause. "About why we're here. Why we matter or don't to people like you." Her expression shifted subtly, her violet eyes darkening to indigo. For a moment she didn't speak, simply studying him as though he were some strange artifact she'd never encountered before. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a sound so pure and enchanting it sent shivers down Elias's spine. "You think too much," she said, stepping even closer. "And yet, there is something intriguing about you. Tell me, human, do you believe yourselves capable of greatness, or are you content to remain insignificant?" Before Elias could respond, she leaned in, her luminous face mere inches from his. Her next words came as a whisper, soft but deliberate. "Beautiful lips," I said. She replied, "Want a taste?" Elias froze, his mind struggling to process what she had just said. Was this some sort of test? A joke? Or something else entirely? Before he could ask, the Veran woman straightened, her lips curling into a mischievous grin. "Consider it a challenge," she said, her voice carrying both amusement and something deeper, something Elias couldn't quite place. "Prove to me that your kind is worth more than we've assumed. Until then—" With that, she turned and began walking away, her glowing form fading into the twilight. Elias watched her go, his heart pounding in his chest. What had just happened? And what exactly had she meant by her words? One thing was certain. Whatever game she was playing, Elias knew he couldn't afford to lose. Because for the first time since arriving on Vera 7, someone or something had challenged him to rise above, and he wasn't about to back down. The next morning, Elias couldn't shake the memory of the Varen woman's parting words. Her challenge lingered in his mind like an unsolved riddle, gnawing at him with every passing moment. He replayed their conversation over and over again, trying to decipher her meaning. What did she want from him? And why had she singled him out when so many others on the envoy had been dismissed outright? As he sat in the cramped quarters assigned to the human delegation, a stark contrast to the gleaming, opulent structures that surrounded them, he noticed the rest of his team preparing for another round of futile negotiations. Captain Lena Hartwell, the leader of the group, was pacing back and forth, her sharp features etched with frustration. "They don't take us seriously," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "It's like we're nothing but a nuisance." To them, Elias hesitated before speaking up. What if they just don't understand us? Lena stopped mid-step and turned to face him, one eyebrow raised skeptically. "Understand us? They've got technology light years ahead of ours, Elias. If anything, we're the ones who can't keep up." "But maybe it's not about technology." Elias pressed gently. "Maybe it's something else entirely. Something human." His words hung in the air, met with silence. The other members of the team exchanged glances, unsure whether to dismiss his musings or consider them further. Finally, Lena crossed her arms and sighed. "All right, Elias, let's hear it. What's your big idea?" Taking a deep breath, Elias recounted his encounter with the mysterious Varen woman. He described her beauty, her cryptic words, and the strange mix of mockery and curiosity she'd shown toward him. When he finished, the room fell silent once more. "You think this is some kind of test?" asked Dr. Mei Chun, the team's xenobiologist, breaking the quiet. "It feels like it," Elias admitted. "She said something about proving ourselves, about showing them we're worth more than they assume." "And how do you propose we do that?" Lena asked, her tone skeptical but not dismissive. "I don't know yet," Elias confessed. "But I think it starts with understanding them, not just their tech, but who they are. Why they see us the way they do." The discussion continued late into the night, with each member throwing out ideas. Some suggested showcasing humanity's greatest achievements, art, literature, music as proof of their worth. Others argued for demonstrating resilience, pointing to humanity's ability to survive wars, plagues, and natural disasters. But none of these solutions felt quite right. The following day, Elias decided to act on his own. Armed with nothing but his translator device and a notebook filled with hastily scribbled notes, he ventured into the heart of the Varen city. The streets were alive with activity, though none of the locals paid him much attention. To them, he was invisible, a speck amidst giants. He wandered aimlessly until he stumbled upon a massive plaza dominated by a towering sculpture. It depicted a figure reaching skyward, its surface shimmering with shifting colors that seemed to pulse with life. A small crowd of Varens stood nearby, gazing up at the monument with expressions of reverence. Curious, Elias approached cautiously. One of the Varens, a tall male with golden skin and eyes like molten amber, noticed him and frowned. "What are you doing here?" "Human?" the Varen asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "I wanted to see this," Elias replied, gesturing to the sculpture. "It's beautiful," the Varen laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "You wouldn't understand its significance. Your kind lacks the depth to comprehend such things." Elias bristled but forced himself to remain calm. "Then help me understand," he said, meeting the Varen's gaze. "Teach me." For a moment, the Varen looked taken aback. Then his expression hardened again. "Why should I waste my time on someone like you?" "Because maybe you're wrong about us?" Elias shot back, surprising even himself with his boldness. "Maybe we're not as shallow as you think." The Varen studied him for a long moment, his molten eyes narrowing. Finally he let out a low chuckle. "Very well, human. Let's see if you can grasp even a fraction of what this means." Over the next hour, the Varen explained the symbolism behind the sculpture. It represented the pursuit of enlightenment, a concept central to Varen culture. According to him, their society valued intellectual and spiritual growth above all else. Those who failed to achieve it were deemed unworthy, cast aside like broken tools. When the explanation ended, the Varan folded his arms and smirked. So, human, do you understand now? Or was this all just a waste of breath? Elias hesitated, absorbing everything he'd learned. Then, slowly, he nodded. I think I do. Thank you. As he walked away, he realized something important. The Varans weren't just arrogant, they were afraid. Afraid of stagnation, of failure, of being left behind. Their disdain for humanity stemmed from a belief that humans were incapable of achieving true greatness, but Elias knew better. Humanity wasn't defined by perfection. It was defined by imperfection, the constant striving to improve, to connect, to create despite limitations. That was their strength, and he intended to show it to the Varans, no matter what it took. Little did he know, his actions that day would ripple outward, setting the stage for a confrontation that would change everything for both species. The days that followed Elias's encounter in the plaza were a whirlwind of activity. He returned to the human delegation with newfound determination, sharing everything he had learned about Varan culture, their obsession with enlightenment, their disdain for stagnation, and their fear of failure. It wasn't just arrogance driving them. It was insecurity masked as superiority. Think about it, Elias explained during one of their strategy meetings. They see themselves as the pinnacle of evolution because they've convinced themselves they have no flaws. But deep down, they're terrified of being wrong. Terrified of being surpassed. Captain Lena Hartwell leaned back in her chair, her arms crossed as she processed his words. So you're saying we need to show them we're not afraid of imperfection? That we embrace it? Exactly, Elias replied. We don't hide from our mistakes. We learn from them. We adapt. That's what makes us strong. Dr. Mei Chun nodded thoughtfully. It's true. Humanity's greatest achievements haven't come from perfection. They've come from persistence. From trying and failing and trying again until we get it right. But how do we prove that to them? Asked Lieutenant Raj Patel, the team's engineer. How do we make them see it? Elias hesitated, unsure of the answer himself. Then an idea struck him, one risky, but potentially powerful enough to break through the Viran's rigid worldview. What if we told them a story? He suggested. Not just any story, but our story, the story of humanity. His teammates stared at him, puzzled. What do you mean? Lena asked. I mean, we share who we are, not just our accomplishments, but our struggles. Our failures, everything that's made us who we are today. Art, music, history, it's all part of it. If they won't listen to logic, maybe they'll listen to emotion. The room fell silent as everyone considered the proposal. It was unconventional, even reckless, but it might work. After all, the Varans prided themselves on intellectual pursuits. Perhaps exposing them to something outside their comfort zone, something raw and deeply human, could shake their assumptions. Over the next week, the team worked tirelessly to prepare. They gathered recordings of Earth's most iconic works, paintings, symphonies, poems, and compiled them into a presentation designed to showcase the full spectrum of human creativity and resilience. Dr. Chun contributed footage of humanity surviving disasters, while Lieutenant Patel added examples of technological breakthroughs born out of necessity. Even Captain Hartwell shared personal stories of overcoming adversity, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. When everything was ready, Elias volunteered to present it to the Varans. Despite the risks, he felt a strange sense of responsibility, as though this was his moment to step up and represent not just himself, but all of humanity. On the day of the presentation, the humans were ushered into a grand amphitheater filled with rows upon rows of glowing Varans. Their luminous forms created an almost surreal atmosphere, like stars scattered across the vast chamber. At the center of the stage stood the mysterious woman Elias had met by the lake, her presence commanding yet enigmatic. As Elias stepped forward, microphone in hand, he could feel the weight of countless eyes on him. His heart raced, but he steadied himself, drawing strength from the faces of his teammates behind him. Thank you for allowing us to speak today, he began, his voice calm despite the nerves coursing through him. We know you see us as lesser, imperfect, and perhaps we are. But imperfection is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's what drives us to grow, to create, to connect. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. We'd like to share something with you. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our soul, who we are, where we come from, what we've endured. With that, the lights dimmed, and the presentation began. Images of Earth flickered across massive screens suspended above the stage, ancient cave paintings, towering skyscrapers, fields of wheat swaying in the wind. Music filled the air, Beethoven symphonies blending seamlessly with modern pop. Songs, clips of people laughing, crying, protesting, celebrating played in rapid succession, each frame capturing a piece of the human experience. At first, the Varans watched silently, their expressions unreadable. But as the presentation progressed, subtle changes became apparent. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their radiant skin flickering faintly, a sign of emotional disturbance. Others leaned forward, their multicolored eyes wide with curiosity. By the time the final image appeared, a child, reaching out to touch a butterfly, the entire amphitheater was alive with murmurs. The silence had been broken, replaced by whispers of confusion, intrigue, and even awe. When the lights came back on, Elias found himself facing the Varan woman once more. Her violet eyes shimmered with an intensity he hadn't seen before. Her lips parted slightly as though she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, she spoke. "You dare to show us your flaws," she said, her voice soft but laced with uncertainty. "Why?" "Because flaws are what make us real," Elias replied without hesitation. "They remind us we're alive, that we can change." "Can you say the same for yourselves?" Her gaze lingered on him for a long moment before she turned away, addressing the crowd. "This demonstration requires further consideration. We will convene again tomorrow." As the humans filed out of the amphitheater, relief washed over them. They didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear: the Varans were no longer ignoring them. For the first time, humanity had sparked a crack in their impenetrable facade, and Elias knew. They were closer than ever to proving their worth. The aftermath of the presentation left both humans and Varans in a state of uneasy tension. For the first time, the Varans seemed genuinely unsettled. A crack had formed in their polished veneer of superiority. Yet, uncertainty lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. The humans knew they had made an impact, but whether it would be enough remained unclear. That night, back in their quarters, the delegation gathered to debrief. The mood was a mix of cautious optimism and nervous energy. Everyone agreed that the presentation had gone better than expected, but none could predict how the Varans would respond. Would they dismiss humanity's efforts as mere theatrics? Or would they take the message to heart? Elias sat quietly in a corner, replaying the events in his mind. He couldn't shake the image of the Varan woman, the way her eyes had flickered with conflicting emotions during the presentation. There was something there, he thought. Something more than arrogance or disdain. It was as if she were wrestling with doubts she hadn't known existed until now. "She's the key," Elias said suddenly, breaking the silence. Everyone turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Captain Hartwell asked. "The woman," Elias clarified. "The one who challenged me by the lake. She's different from the others, more curious, less certain. If we can reach her, maybe we can reach all of them." Dr. Chen frowned. "You think focusing on one individual will make a difference?" "They're a collective society, Elias. Decisions aren't made based on personal feelings." "Maybe not," Elias admitted. "But societies are made up of individuals. Change one person, and you might change the whole system. Besides, didn't you see how she reacted today? She's questioning things she probably never questioned before." Lieutenant Patel leaned forward, intrigued. "So what's your plan? How do we reach her?" "I don't know yet," Elias confessed. "But I think I need to talk to her again, alone." The suggestion sparked debate among the team. Some argued it was too risky. Others believed it could work. In the end, Captain Hartwell gave her reluctant approval, provided Elias approached the situation carefully. The next morning, Elias ventured back into the city, his heart pounding with anticipation. He wasn't sure where to find her, but somehow He felt drawn toward the crystalline lake where they'd first met. And there she was, standing at the water's edge, gazing out at the shimmering expanse as though lost in thought. When she noticed him approaching, her glowing skin flickered faintly, a sign of surprise, perhaps even discomfort. "You again," she said, her melodic voice tinged with amusement. "I didn't expect you to seek me out so soon." "I needed to see you," Elias replied simply, "to understand." Her brow furrowed slightly, her indigo eyes narrowing. "Understand what? Why you challenged me? Why you let us present our story when no one else cared? What do you want?" "From us?" For a moment she said nothing, her luminous form reflecting softly in the rippling water. Then she sighed, a sound almost human in its weariness. "You confuse me, human. Your kind is fragile, fleeting, yet there is something about you that defies logic. Something I cannot ignore." Elias took a step closer, emboldened by her honesty. "Maybe that's because we're not bound by logic alone. We feel. We dream. We fail, but we keep going anyway. Isn't that worth something?" Her gaze softened, though her expression remained guarded. "Perhaps, but my people, they fear imperfection. They cling to the idea that they are superior because they believe it keeps them safe. To admit otherwise—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "To admit otherwise means facing vulnerability," Elias finished for her. "It means risking failure. But isn't that better than living in fear?" She studied him intently, her shifting eyes betraying a storm of conflicting thoughts. Finally she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "You speak boldly, human, too boldly. Do you not realize the danger you place yourself in?" "I'm not afraid," Elias said firmly, "because I believe in what I'm saying, and I believe in us." Her lips curved into a faint smile, though it was tinged with sadness. "You are either very brave or very foolish. Either way, you intrigue me." Before Elias could respond, a low hum filled the air, drawing their attention upward. A sleek Varan transport craft descended from the sky, hovering just above the lake. From within, several figures emerged, including members of the ruling council, their presence unmistakable in their regal attire. One of them addressed the woman directly, his tone sharp and commanding. "Usha, come. We must discuss recent developments." Usha's name sent a jolt through Elias, so this was her name. She hesitated, glancing between Elias and the council members. Then, with a final, unreadable look at him, she turned and followed them aboard the craft. As it ascended into the sky, Elias stood rooted to the spot, watching until it disappeared from view. Back at the delegation's quarters, Elias relayed the encounter to his team. While some expressed concern over his boldness, others saw promise in Usha's reaction. "She's conflicted," Dr. Chun observed. "If we play this right, she could become an ally. But we need to act fast," Captain Hartwell warned. "The council won't stay undecided for long." Elias nodded, determination burning within him. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain. Usha had begun to question everything she thought she knew, and that was a turning point neither species could ignore. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of understanding and redefine what it meant to be truly alive. Tension in the Varan city reached a fever pitch over the next few days. The ruling council had convened multiple times behind closed doors, their glowing forms visible through translucent walls as they debated humanity's fate. Meanwhile, whispers spread among the populace, some curious about the humans' bold display, others dismissive or even hostile. The delegation felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them, knowing that any misstep could shatter the fragile progress they'd made. Elias, however, couldn't stop thinking about Usha. Her name echoed in his mind like a melody he couldn't forget. He replayed their conversation by the lake, searching for clues in her words and expressions. There was no denying she was conflicted, caught between her ingrained beliefs and the unsettling truths humanity had forced her to confront. But would her inner turmoil lead her to support them? Or would she retreat back into the rigid hierarchy of her people? The answer came sooner than expected. Late one evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of amber and violet, Aisha appeared unannounced at the edge of the human delegation's compound. Her arrival sent ripples of surprise and caution through the team. She stood tall but hesitant, her radiant skin dimmed slightly, as though she were deliberately toning down her usual brilliance. "I need to speak with you," she said, addressing Elias directly. Her voice carried urgency, though it remained soft enough to avoid drawing attention from nearby guards. Captain Hartwell exchanged a wary glance with Dr. Chun before nodding toward Elias. "Go ahead," she said quietly. "But be careful." Elias stepped outside, meeting Usha a short distance away from the compound. The cool night breeze carried the faint scent of bioluminescent flowers, mingling with the tension hanging between them. "What is it?" Elias asked, his tone steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside him. "The council is divided," Usha began, her indigo eyes flickering with unease. "Some believe your presentation was a clever manipulation, a trick designed to exploit our weaknesses. Others see potential in what you've shown us, potential for growth, for change. And what do you believe?" Elias pressed gently. She hesitated, her luminous hands clasping together tightly. "I don't know anymore." "You've challenged everything I thought I understood, not just about your kind, but about mine, about myself." Her vulnerability struck Elias deeply. Here was someone who had always been certain of her place in the universe, now grappling with doubts that threatened to unravel her very identity. "You're afraid," he said softly. "Afraid of what might happen if you let go of the idea that perfection is the only path worth pursuing." Her gaze snapped to his, sharp and defensive. "And what would you have me do? Abandon my people? Betray everything I've ever known?" "No," Elias replied firmly. "I'm asking you to trust that imperfection isn't failure, it's freedom. It's the chance to grow, to connect, to become something greater than you are. Now, isn't that what enlightenment really means?" Usha stared at him, her glowing form flickering faintly as though struggling to contain the emotions surging within her. Finally, she let out a shaky breath. "If I help you, if I advocate for your cause, it will come at a cost. My position, my reputation, perhaps even my safety." "Then why take the risk?" Elias asked, his voice filled with quiet intensity. "Why come here tonight? Because—" She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Because I want to believe there's another way, a better way. And because you make me question whether perfection is truly worth the price we pay for it." The admission hung in the air, heavy with meaning. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the world around them fading into silence. Then Aisha straightened, her resolve hardening. "There will be a vote tomorrow," she said. "The council will decide whether to expel your kind from Vera 7 or allow you to stay under strict conditions. If I sway the vote in your favor, you must promise me something." "Anything," Elias said without hesitation. "You must prove that your so-called imperfections are not a weakness but a strength, that your humanity can coexist with ours, without destroying what we hold sacred." Elias nodded solemnly. "We'll prove it together." As Aisha turned to leave, her final words lingered in the night air. "Be ready, human. Tomorrow will test us all." Back inside the compound, Elias relayed the conversation to his team. The stakes had never been higher. If Aisha succeeded in swaying the council, humanity would earn a foothold in this alien society, but failure meant exile. Or worse. Preparations continued late into the night, each member contributing whatever they could to bolster their case. Music, art, stories of resilience, all were woven into a tapestry designed to showcase humanity's heart and soul. When dawn broke over Vera 7, casting its shimmering light across the crystalline landscape, the humans gathered in the grand amphitheater once more. This time, the atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation and dread. The council members took their seats, their glowing forms arranged in a semicircle above the stage. Among them sat Aisha, her posture rigid but her eyes betraying a flicker of hope. As Elias stepped forward to address the assembly, he felt the weight of countless lives resting on his shoulders. His voice rang out clear and strong, carrying the essence of humanity's spirit. "We are not perfect," he began, "but perfection is not life. Life is messy, unpredictable, beautiful. It is laughter and tears, triumphs and failures. And, it is worth fighting for. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on him. In that moment, Elias knew they had reached a tipping point. The choice was no longer theirs alone, it belonged to the Varens and to Usha, whose courage would determine the fate of two species bound together by doubt and possibility. The amphitheater was alive with an almost unbearable tension as Elias finished his opening statement. His words hung in the air like sparks waiting to ignite a flame, and for a moment no one moved or spoke. The Varens sat in silence, their glowing forms flickering faintly, a sign that his message had struck a nerve. Some council members exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Others stared straight ahead, their radiant faces betraying nothing but cold calculation. Usha sat among them, her violet eyes locked onto Elias. Her skin shimmered softly. Not out of arrogance this time, but uncertainty, perhaps even hope. She knew the gravity of what was at stake, both for humanity and for her own people. If she chose to act now, it would require every ounce of courage she possessed. Finally, the head of the council, a towering figure with silver hair flowing like liquid light, rose from the seat. His voice resonated through the chamber, melodic yet commanding. "Human," he began, addressing Elias directly, "your kind has made bold claims that challenge the very foundation of our society. Do you truly believe your imperfections can coexist with our pursuit of perfection?" Elias took a deep breath, steadying himself. This was the moment everything hinged on. "Yes," he replied firmly, "because imperfection isn't something to be feared, it's something to embrace. It's what makes us adaptable, creative, compassionate. Without it, we wouldn't survive. We wouldn't thrive." The council leader tilted his head slightly, his molten gold eyes narrowing. "And how do you propose to prove this?" "Words are fleeting, actions define truth." Before Elias could respond, Usha stood abruptly, drawing gasps from the assembly. All eyes turned to her, including Elias's, who watched her with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "I will prove it," she declared, her voice ringing out clear and resolute. "Not because I trust these humans completely, but because I trust myself enough to question what we've always believed." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of shock and disapproval. One of the other council members, a stern-looking female with emerald-green skin, spoke up sharply. "Usha, have you lost your reason? To side with outsiders over your own kind?" "They are not outsiders," Usha interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "They are beings who refuse to accept stagnation, who dare to grow despite their flaws. Is that not what enlightenment should mean? Growth, not perfection?" Her words sent a ripple of unease through the council. For centuries, the Varens had equated enlightenment with unattainable ideals, viewing anything less as failure. Now, Usha was challenging that belief and forcing them to confront the cracks in their philosophy. Elias seized the opportunity, stepping forward once more. "Let us show you, not just tell you, who we are. Let us share our creativity, our resilience, our ability to connect across differences. Let us work together, side by side, to solve problems neither of us could tackle alone." He gestured toward Lieutenant Patel, who activated a holographic display behind him. It showed images of collaborative projects humanity had undertaken throughout history, building bridges between cultures, uniting nations after conflict, exploring the stars despite countless failures. Each example highlighted humanity's capacity for unity, innovation, and empathy. The room fell silent again, the weight of Elias's argument settling over everyone. Then Isha stepped down from the council platform, walking toward the center of the stage where Elias stood. Her movements were deliberate, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the vast chamber. "I will stand with them," she announced, turning to face the council. "If my people reject this chance to learn, to evolve, then we are no better than the stagnant societies we despise. Humanity may be flawed, but they are alive in ways we have forgotten how to be." Her declaration ignited a storm of reactions. Some council members erupted in protest, their voices overlapping in outrage. Others looked thoughtful, their glowing forms dimming slightly as though deep in contemplation. And then there was the head of the council, who simply observed the chaos with an inscrutable expression. When the noise finally subsided, he raised a hand for silence. "Very well," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Let this matter be decided by vote. Those in favor of granting humanity provisional status and allowing collaboration between our species step forward." For a long, agonizing moment, no one moved. Then Isha stepped forward, her presence unwavering. Slowly, hesitantly, 2 more council members followed suit. Then 4, then 6. By the time the votes were counted, the decision was clear. Humanity had been given a chance, not as equals but as partners. A fragile alliance had been forged, built on trust and mutual curiosity rather than certainty. As the amphitheater emptied, Elias approached Usha, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," he said simply. "You didn't have to do that." She smiled faintly, her indigo eyes softening. "Perhaps not. But someone had to take the first step. Together, let's see where it leads." In that moment, Elias realized something profound. The true strength of humanity lay not in its technology or achievements, but in its ability to inspire change even in those who seemed impossible to reach. The galaxy would never be the same. Months passed, and the fragile alliance between humanity and the Varens began to take root. What had started as skepticism and hostility slowly transformed into cautious cooperation. Joint projects flourished, human ingenuity combined with Varen. Technology led to breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. From sustainable energy solutions to advancements in interstellar travel, the collaboration proved that imperfection and perfection could coexist, creating something greater than either on its own. Elias found himself at the heart of this new partnership, working closely with Isha to bridge the cultural divide between their peoples. Their bond deepened over time, forged not just by shared goals but by mutual respect and understanding. Where once Usha had dismissed humans as inferior, she now marveled at their resilience, creativity, and capacity for connection. And Elias, who had initially felt overshadowed by the Varen's brilliance, came to see their flaws, to their fear of vulnerability, their rigid adherence to ideals that left little room for growth. One evening, under the twin sunsets of Vera 7, Elias and Isha stood together on a balcony overlooking the crystalline city. The bioluminescent streets below shimmered like veins of light, pulsing softly in rhythm with the planet's heartbeat. It was a view both breathtaking and humbling, a reminder of how far they'd come and how much farther they still had to. "Go, you've changed us," Usha said quietly, breaking the silence. Her voice carried a mixture of gratitude and wonder, tinged with the faintest trace of sadness. "For centuries we believed enlightenment meant striving for perfection. But you've shown us it means embracing imperfection and learning from it." Elias turned to look at her, his expression thoughtful. "And you've changed us too. We used to think survival was enough, that making it through another day was all we could hope for. But you've reminded us there's more to life than just enduring. There's growing, becoming." Usha smiled, her glowing skin dimming slightly as though mirroring the warmth of the moment. "Perhaps we needed each other more than we realized. To challenge our assumptions, to remind us what it means to truly live." As they stood there, side by side, Elias felt a profound sense of fulfillment, a quiet certainty that their efforts were shaping something extraordinary. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. It was thriving, reaching beyond its limitations to connect with others across the stars. The changes weren't without challenges, of course. Some Varens remained resistant, clinging to old beliefs even, as their society evolved around them. And among the humans, there were those who worried about losing their identity in the face of such overwhelming alien influence. But progress rarely came without struggle, and both species were learning to navigate the complexities of their newfound relationship. Later that night, as Elias prepared to leave the balcony, Usha stopped him with a gentle touch on his arm. "Before you go," she said, her voice soft but deliberate, "I want to show you something." She led him to a secluded garden within the city, hidden beneath a canopy of luminescent trees. In the center stood a sculpture unlike any Elias had seen before. It depicted 2 figures intertwined, one human and one Varen, their forms blending seamlessly into each other. The base-born inscription written in both languages, unity through imperfection. This is our future, Asha explained, her eyes shining with emotion. Not perfection, but balance. Not separation, but harmony. Together we can build something neither of us could create alone. Elias stared at the sculpture, his chest swelling with pride and hope. It's beautiful, he murmured. Just like your lips, Asha replied, her tone teasing yet sincere. Elias chuckled, shaking his head. You're never going to let me forget that line, are you? No, she said with a grin. Because it reminds me of where we started and how far we've come. As they gazed at the sculpture together, Elias realized the journey was only beginning. Humanity and the Varens had taken the first steps toward a brighter future. One built on trust, empathy, and the courage to embrace imperfection. In the end, it wasn't about proving superiority or achieving perfection. It was about finding common ground and discovering that true strength lay not in being flawless, but in being alive. And as the stars twinkled above Vera 7, casting their light on a world forever changed, Elias whispered a single thought aloud.